folks? Welcome back to the One Piece Virgin Eggheads Book Club podcast, and let me just say, it's Blackbeard's era! That's right! The best pirate takes over. That's what you get, Newgate. Oh, you want a family? You pussy little pansy man with your overgrown Hitler mustache and your formerly swastika flag. I see what you're doing, Oda. Huh? Disgusting. I'm glad Blackbeard came in and killed One Piece Hitler. The true hero of the story arrives in volume 59, covering chapters 574 to 584.
Peaceful Buddhist who was a civil rights leader, okay? Possibly a vegetarian. I'm sure he loved animals. Probably wasn't too fond of tobacco. I didn't see him smoking, so I mean, what more could you ask for, really? And his mustache is inspired a great gamer, Vince Pastrami. We know about him from Big Brother. You know what? He said he looked at that mustache and said, I want to emulate everything that this man ever stood for, especially his symbolism.
You know, I don't go in enough about how my life is, especially during the summer, completely consumed by Big Brother and One Piece. And I have to imagine not even one human being on Earth in this audience can say the same. If there is somebody with that same overlap, and you hear me and Eggy make these little One Piece or in Big Brother references all the time, you've got to be in heaven. I can't imagine. Nobody I follow has my niche interests, and by niche I mean the fucking most popular best-selling story in history. But Eggy, oh my fucking god, it's the end of Marineford. We're gonna have to put it on the tier list at some point. I've got some other manga shenanigans to go through because I've been reading a lot of Zatch Bell. I want to talk about that. But Eggy, starting now, right here, what is your top of mind?
Well, I'm sure everybody, once again, I say this a lot.
You say this every fucking time.
And today, it is possibly the truest it's ever been, okay?
You've said that every time, too.
Okay, I might need a new shtick. All right. So, humor me, folks. Chapter 581. There's a flashback of sorts. It's not really a flashback because the people, I don't think anybody involved in the conversation here has the wherewithal to know this. It's more of just this happened, and now we're just, it's kind of like a cutaway more, I suppose, than a flashback on Oda's part. Blackbeard, he's in level 6 of Impel Down. He's ready to free the biggest and baddest, the ones that have been taken out of the history books. Oh, I'm talking about Oda. He knows what he's talking about here because, you know what, they don't even want to give you the villains with the real deal, the pinnacle, the creme de la creme. They need to be taken out forever. Anyway.
Well, Eggy, if I can interject briefly, maybe 4 or 5 volumes ago, all of these specific pirates from level 6 that end up joining were named specifically either by Magellan or Hannibal, I don't remember, but like Katarina Devon, these are names we read probably a month ago.
That is very true. So, there's something here that I simply just could not get over. As Blackbeard, he makes his announcement to the prisoners of Impel Down level 6, and he's letting them know, I'm going to let you free. Y'all need to just go into a battle royale, and whoever's left standing is coming with me. In this depiction, Blackbeard is shown with perfect teeth. Oh my goodness.
What the fuck?
You know, at the end of the day, folks, see, people don't know about it. Here's a little rundown, a little quick lore for me. I was only born with one set of teeth, and they never have been particularly good looking. So when I see Blackbeard, especially considering the much less impactful moments in this volume, where he essentially usurps all the greatness of the Whitebeard pirates, declares his new era, and yada yada. I'm sitting here watching him do it with this multiple tooth missing smile. He's so jolly. He's not a stick thin Sanji pretty boy type. You know, he's got long flowing hair, bad teeth, and he likes to laugh a lot. I mean, really, I'm just so enthralled. I mean, I was getting the Whitebeard insignia tattooed on my chest already, but I actually stopped it because I said I need to get the cross, of course.
Which version?
Because I'm a devout Christian man.
Yeah.
But Blackbeard, you know, he really stole my heart, and I thought that was just so such an oversight, really, to depict him as this Chad with perfect teeth. I was like, that's not the Blackbeard I fell in love with.
Well, you
no,
say
but in all
oversight. No,
seriousness-
you say oversight. Let's talk about it. Oda, he knows how to draw his characters. He's not going to forget that Blackbeard's missing teeth in one scene. If this is intentional, what could it possibly mean that Blackbeard's teeth change from scene to scene?
Well, I would be very happy to meet whoever possesses the tooth fruits that they're going to make a killing as a dentist somewhere. They probably should be on the Sabaody Archipelago and be like a personal dentist to one of the Celestial Dragons, or some fantastical and high-ranking, high-status person. But maybe there was something down there in that level 6. They went through a lot of hells, a lot of torturous things. Maybe
I wonder if we pulled up every single panel of Blackbeard, if there's a consistency, like when he has a full set of teeth, he behaves one way, and when he's missing teeth, he behaves another way. And I'm just spitballing here because I don't know, that might be the only panel in history where he has a full set, but if we take a closer look, maybe there are some secrets Oda's hiding with these teeth.
Well, in this volume, even following his incredible ascent, which, to be honest, was really more of my actual top of mind, because what a tactician here.
It's Blackbeard's era.
It could be, I think these could be related, though, in a way, because we're seeing Blackbeard, where do we first see him at? We first meet him at Mocktown, right?
Yep, in that bar, eating some apple pies with Luffy, cherry pies.
Just a real pleasant individual. What man doesn't love his pie? That's my favorite dessert. So, I like to drink. I like to eat pie. I like to, be a large object that is disruptive, like when he's sitting in the road. These are so many different things that, as the Blackbeard lore develops, I haven't found a disagreeable moment yet, really. So I wonder, perhaps maybe there could be such a thing as, something that comes to mind as a decoy. I don't think this is totally a new concept throughout literature, throughout storytelling, where somebody presents a less threatening version of themselves to the public-facing. Even Crocodile, you could say, perhaps, had one public-facing persona and then something more devious, more sinister, more calculated in his private inner circle. And perhaps this Blackbeard, with his Chip Skylark smile, just looking like he's going to be gracing the front page of Pirate Monthly magazine. Maybe this is the man right here that is, when he comes together and he's focused, he's tactically astute. Maybe he has some physical changes. He's obviously got a very interesting power. And so to say my real, probably more authentically legitimate top of mind, yes, the usurping, I think, of Whitebeard and his era by Blackbeard.
Not just his era, and his devil fruit power, Eggy.
It was very out of left field for me. I feel like what we've been seeing here in Marineford, and just how suspenseful, gripping, and attention-grabbing the sequences with Whitebeard and Ace, fighting between the Navy and the Whitebeard pirates, these cliffhangers we've been subjected to, Luffy and the New Common Land persons, doing their entrance to the entire spectacle as it was. All of these things have been so commanding of attention that really Blackbeard, up until this volume, had honestly fallen by the wayside for me. He's over there doing whatever he does. I was not at all thinking that there was going to be any further part for him to play in what we were experiencing here at this particular moment. And just like the era, just like the Quake, or the Tremor fruit rather, it was really just, the floor was pulled out from under me. I did not expect it to go this way. And
well, back in Impel Down, did he not promise Luffy, we're going to put on a show that the whole world, something like that? So he promised he was going to do something soon, and we forgot about it because of all this other epic shit that was going down. But he came through.
I guess probably at the time, and probably with them on their way to try and stall and nullify Ace's execution, I'm thinking maybe, they're going to be going in a whole opposite direction. It seemed like a good opportunity at the time, I think maybe for the Blackbeard pirates, that there was so much chaos. I think I've heard this statement a few times in my life that never let a good tragedy go to waste, something to that effect.
I think that's been happening all week after Charlie Kirk was killed.
I mean, and it's just, I think, well, what can I say? I wasn't, I'm not in the inner circle. I feel like it's been just a tad more predictable. What does that say about our reality? But who knows? There's so many ways to flip the script, and all I could say at the end of the day is maybe just like a lowly Sabaody archipelago cart puller. I just look up at the screens and say, hey, at the end of the day, who cares whose era it is, because I'm about to go eat some goo and some slop and sleep on the floor somewhere. That's my life anyway, so it is what it is. So
Sabaody might be a good place to live if you're not a slave, I guess. What do we make of this? Magellan, our favorite villain, he defeats all of Blackbeard's pirates. He defeats Luffy. He's undefeated until we get some dialogue. Don't even get to see his fate. I guess the newly formed Blackbeard pirates with all these level 6 guys, plus Shiryu, of course. Homeboy Magellan was not ready, and they beat him so bad that he's on suicide watch. Our beloved Magellan is on suicide watch because he's so disappointed in himself. Is that heartbreaking? Do we care about Magellan? Because I think I do.
I feel like the context and the contrast there with what we've seen of Magellan's power and just how devastating he is. I mean, even to the point where I believe I mentioned this when it was occurring. I guess that would have been 2 volumes ago, maybe. But when he's got like the poison Hydra attack that he uses as their Jinbei's out there trying to commandeer a vessel and all that, and they're all on the ledge out there, whatever, waiting for their rescue. And he says something to the effect of, this attack, I can't use this one usually because this one single attack could completely destroy the entire prison because it's so powerful. And so when we see that in I guess we don't really see a great display example of these level 6 Impel Down prisoners and what exactly their abilities are. We get in the introduction, or really more so the further explanation a little bit of their characters. We did get the names before. Now we get at least a face and a couple blurbs to each of their characters to get a little bit of personality affixed to them.
And in terms of power scaling, we can imagine level 6 level people. Who was down there? Crocodile, Ace, Jinbei, and these people are the ones who killed everybody else in their cell. So they've got to be got to be up there for sure. And the impression I'm getting so far from this podcast, Eggy, is that Blackbeard is a literally you character, but I'm shocked your top of mind was not the introduction of a character named Big Drinker Vasco Shot. Is this not the new literally Eggy?
Well, we get, there's 2 speech bubbles. This is going to be, just from memory here, I believe it's something like, so, for those who are not anatomically educated.
He's Rick from Rick and Morty.
The hiccuping, it has to do with gastrointestinal issues, like an acid reflux kind of thing. And if there's one thing that I have plenty of, it's a lot of gas shooting out everywhere, and a lot of hiccups. So that's very relatable. And his other statement is something, I believe it says like, so can I kill everybody now or something? Once again, very relatable. However, I'm going to continue. This is something I've kind of established throughout this series, and I'm going to continue on this path that I might be given something that is very agreeable and something I could really leap on, but I'm a facts and logic guy from day one. I need a little more of Vasco Shot. I need a little more of his character to develop for me, a little more of him put to the paper before I can really say for sure. But he's got a very strong start, certainly. And what's also very interesting is I might look this up yet within this recording, but His name is very similar to a weapon from one of my very favorite games of all time, Phantasy Star Online. And I don't believe the weapon is, because there's a type of weapon in the game called the Shot, which is like a multi-projectile rifle, essentially. You have rifles and pistols in the game, and then shots are like, they spread, I think they can do like 3 or 5 projectiles. And if it's not Vasco, it's something very, very similar. And I'll probably look that up maybe at some point here. Maybe when you're kind of on your top of mind, maybe I'll just quick plop it into Google to double check. But so many, many reasons, and he's not particularly good looking either. So many, many reasons why I could find this character to be highly relatable. But
they're going to have to start like a monthly anime convention if we're going to actually do all the cosplays that we've promised to do, like Butchie and CM and, going all the way back to Syrup Village. I'm sure we both wanted to be Gaimon at some point, so we need to find some conventions, because I don't know, it's going to be a long time before you finally do the Vasco Shot cosplay, if not just living that life every day.
I think, once I get my album out and I start getting some proceeds, maybe I could find a way to incorporate both a One Piece cosplay and live, honky tonk performance into one, which similarly to One Piece and Big Brother combo, might not be a whole lot of people in this world that have a huge overlapping love of these, things. But I think really, to be honest, if you enjoy One Piece, you enjoy this sort of free man's experience as out there sailing on the seas, trying to make your way in the world, make your mark as bigger and better every day. I feel like there should be something within you that resonates with a countryman. That's just how I feel, but I think there's certainly a possibility.
Eggy, we got so much more Blackbeard to go through, so that might as well be both of our top of mind, because I thought if you ate a second devil fruit, the devils would fight and you would explode. I think Jabra told us that in Annie's Lobby. All these fucking stupid made-up names in my head. How the hell Blackbeard throws like a blanket on top of dead standing Whitebeard, goes under it with him, and then he comes out and he has both devil fruit powers, one in each hand. We were playing One Piece Burning Blood the other day, and I said, okay, you can play as anybody other than Blackbeard, because still his powers are a spoiler. Well, no longer. Now you can see that he has the Earthquake Fruit. You're all caught up as far as I'm concerned. But what is happening?
Well, I guess it's a very good fruit to have, because it was already established in the Marineford arc here that the Tremor fruit is devastating enough to be able to
destroy the world. You don't want Blackbeard to have that power, hypothetically.
Yes, so you really, there's nothing further to grasp for it, but I guess what kind of comes to mind for me, and I know we've had exposure to the dark fruit before. I kind of feel like the best way to explain it, because I'm a pro video game lover from day one since the beginning. There is what is it? I wish I could remember the exact name of it, but in Pokemon there is, a move that is escaping me at the moment, but to where you can essentially then utilize the last used ability or attack and so on of your opponent. Because maybe the dark fruit has like it has that inherent capability where you can just get, shadow flamed essentially. And then maybe perhaps it has that like a one in the chamber, a single space available to copy or mimic that ability of your opponent. Whether that would be, I guess when you have a devil fruit power, it's only going to be one ability because that's what you got. So maybe it's got that cloning aspect to it. Maybe in the same way, maybe you could get flushed. Maybe you get Django up in there to hypnotize him. Maybe you could have him copy the door fruit or something. I hate that to be my go-to of less effective devil fruits, but it's just going to keep coming to mind.
Always a door fruit hater for no reason. So much utility. I think I'm just going to keep
on being it because I need.
Bro, if Blackbeard got the door fruit on top of the other two, it's done. He can enter any place, just walk right up to the One Piece, threw his door fruit, and anybody there, earthquake them to death, take away their devil fruit power with the darkness fruit. He's unstoppable at that point if he has the door fruit.
Well, is it because I guess maybe I'm just going to need more context as the story goes on here, because is it like a package deal that you're nullifying your opponent's devil fruit?
So
and
that's just based on the fight with Ace and the fight with Luffy. We've seen that the darkness fruit nullifies devil fruit effects, and we don't know how or why, but I would imagine that must be tied into the ability to steal somebody's devil fruit. You know, if this fruit specifically nullifies other fruits, like, you know, I would imagine that all ties in. Did you find what you were looking up?
So there's no Vasco shot weapon. Let's see here. A quick run. I guess I was thinking of. I guess it's launcher shot. Well, no, actually that's not right. What is the number one? Oh. Well, I guess this is kind of relatable to something else we had looked at. The Iron Faust shot is one of the greatest shots in the Mazer Beam, Panzer Faust. I believe the Dark Meteor shot might be one of the greatest weapons that I think that drops off of an episode 2 boss with like a 1 in 10,000 drop chance. I haven't played Phantasy Star Online in a while, but shout out to Affinia though. Great.
Well, while we're here talking about random video games that aren't One Piece, I do have a story to tell, because I've been reading through this manga, Free Irin or whatever, but I kind of, in the last 2 weeks, I low-key been falling off, because I started reading Zatch Bell, and I'm like addicted to it. I'm like 14 volumes into Zatch Bell, you know, over 100 chapters, lapped my Free Irin chapter count very easily. That's my recommendation of the day. If you want something with the same comedic spirit, fun battles, very expressive character emotions of deep snot and tears, you know, Zatch Bell matches the tone of One Piece so well, and it's such a page turner. Very easy to just go through a million chapters real quick, so go check that out. But video games, reading that Free Irin, I realized it's very much RPG logic, like, oh, get your party of, you know, 4, and then you got blah 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 and go on the quest. I realized I never played an actual video game like that. I think the only RPG I've ever played is Pokemon, and you know, I don't think Pokemon truly counts. Like the strategy of, I got like my 3 or 4 dudes, and then there's like random encounters of 5 enemies that pop up, and I gotta attack with here and use a spell to heal. Never ever played a game like that in my life, so I looked up which one I should start with, and as of yesterday, I'm now 3 hours into a PS2 game called Dragon Quest VIII. Have you played this, Eggy?
Oh, shit, absolute Giga Kino.
I feel the same way so far.
When I built my first gaming PC, I was not able to commandeer a graphics card right away, because this was in 2014, as I recall, and it was right, unfortunately, coincidentally, right around the beginning of the home Bitcoin mining boom, or at least as how it was brought to my attention, because I knew about that kind of stuff before, but as I was getting the components, like, oh, there's no graphics cards. I'm like, what the hell? Yeah, I think that still has pretty much continued on to the current day. But anyway, I was kind of figuring, I had an integrated graphics card. It was still an expensive build regardless, but once I got that first graphics card, then that's when I realized, because I was a big PS2 enthusiast, and I had probably 100 games that I had collected physical copies of, and I realized then that I could play every PS2 game on my computer with like 10 times enhanced graphics. And Dragon Ball Z, Budokai 3, Tenchi, or whatever it's called, something like that, and Dragon Quest VIII were 2 of my first picks to really. These are games that I wanted to play that were difficult to come by with a physical copy. So I had played a lot of the games I wanted to already on the original PlayStation 2. But these were 2 games that were hard to come by, and then I could hit them with enhanced graphics, and I probably put, I'm sure, over 100 hours combined between the 2 games. I completely 100%ed Budokai 3. Love that game so very much. And Dragon Quest VIII, I think I didn't really 100% it, but I played through the game though, and it is a definitely high tier selection, especially for that era, for sure.
it's very satisfying to grind up enough money to get the boomerang, and then you're just boomeranging all those fools. Don't have to click on them one by one with a sword. So I'm having a lot of fun. But Eggy, we covered a lot of Blackbeard. Where do you want to go next? Because we don't have any new members this week, so we're skipping that.
Well, I guess we have to, unfortunately, say that I had a prediction last week that I was really, banking on. It wasn't even so much that I wanted the prediction as much that I just really wanted it to be how things were going to go.
You predicted that Ace would recover and Whitebeard gets away, is that?
I think more or less it was that, Ace was not going to die. And when I paged to the very beginning of Volume 59, really, I think you have the cover story. I'm not looking at it right now, but I don't know if it necessarily mentions the title of the volume on the absolute front, but it certainly does on the page after. And the title of this volume is The Death of Port Gaz the Ace. And when I saw that, I was like...
There goes the ambiguity or the potential. It's very blatant before you even get to the text. Like, you read that title, and then he has, a whole scene of dialogue. Like, damn.
And, it's interesting because even besides that, really the first chapter, as it stands, is really just cementing that reality, I guess. Just like Luffy, it's hard for me to take. But...
Now, Eggy, we need to talk about this. Were you spoiled on the death of Ace? Did you ever read Ace dies in One Piece at any point in the last 59 weeks? Never.
I mean, for all I know, because I didn't know, Frankie was an enigma to me, like, oh, when's he going to leave? Maybe he's going to stay around forever. Maybe Ace, maybe he's about to, come back. Because I will say for how wrong I was, I still had this thought in my mind. I wasn't sure how it was going to come together, but I'm just like, oh, well, he's going to be taken by some sort of crew or whatever the situation is going to be something where he's allowed to recover and allowed to heal. Now, we get a kind of a surprise with Law showing up, and then that's sort of something that allows an environment for Luffy and Jinbei to,
he's not lit up today, but he should be lit up after what he did to save Luffy.
I agree. But, so there's, it's kind of a half and half, but I would say overall, an inaccurate prediction because I was just hopeful that we haven't really had
you don't want to turn
somebody significant and cherished pass away. And then we get, obviously Ace is, in my opinion, for so far as what we've read through in the series so far, I would say that Ace and his death is more emotionally impactful than also the death of Whitebeard. But, Whitebeard, he sure went out like a son of a gun, though, as they take a time to really instill in us with all of the wounds. And, is part of his face being straight up like Toxic Avenger or Phantom of the Paradise, you might say, just getting a straight up sweep to the skull and still standing on business. So that was pretty... honorable, but...
Well, Eggy, the reason I ask is because Ace dying is the One Piece spoiler. This is the Snape kills Dumbledore of One Piece. So I kind of been walking on eggshells the last 59 weeks. Like, is Eggy going to encounter this in the wild? Is he going to know? And it's almost shocking that it never got ruined for you. Because there's nothing else in the entire story thus far that is as easy of a spoiler to say as Ace dies.
Well, I just want to say, for one, I have not read any of the comments typically on any of these uploads, so maybe that's helped me go away from some spoilers, and I've taken some liberty to, make sure that when I'm consuming any kind of media, every now and then I might be browsing the 4th Chan, and there might be a One Piece something showing up, and I make sure to click on the 3 dots and click hide thread so that I can't accidentally read any of it. I have taken some care to, but, and I want to say shout out to the trolls that could have done that for me. They didn't. For all I know, too, by the way, I want to say this still, Maybe sometime in the next couple weeks, he's still going to pop back up. He's going to come to and, shake it off. I really have no way to know for sure.
Well,
but
it's not like the story's linear. We're in a flashback with Ace in it right now. So it's like as soon as he dies, he's in the story more than he was in the entire rest of the story.
That's true. Just like my dearest King Cobra, sometimes people, their presence is so significant that no matter what, you'll always have them with you in your life, whether that's through a flashback or a dank YouTube compilation and so on and so forth.
I got some quotes from Ace here. I'm sorry you didn't get to save me. There's one thing I've left undone. I wasn't able to see your dream through to the end, but you, I know you can do it. Eggy, what is he talking about?
Well, I have to say that if it's Luffy's dream, it's got to be being king of the pirates. And to be fair, I don't know if that maybe fair is the right word to use, but I guess this is a way to sort of evade the eventual conflict that would probably have to happen between Ace and Luffy, because Ace, he's been under Whitebeard's wing this whole time, specifically fine-tuned to the best specifications to become king of the pirates eventually, which is what Luffy's looking for.
But if we think about it from Ace's perspective, back in Alabasta, he made it clear to Luffy, you're not going to be the pirate king, little bro. I'm working my ass off to make Whitebeard the pirate king. Pops deserves it. But now, on his deathbed, he says, I wasn't able to see your dream through to the end. Is he really talking about that? The dream he denied his brother a month ago?
I feel like all of the events that have transpired in the interim between him saying that and now, I could be wrong, but I would feel instinctually to say that Luffy has accomplished some really incredible things here. And that I would feel like maybe he's not outright earned that King of the Pirates title necessarily at this point, because he still is falling short of the power level of some of the more significant and accomplished pirates, especially of the New World. But when we look at momentum, we look at, if we could take the, as they say in the speedrunning community, you have like a world record overall, but then you have segments. So you have like point A to point B, point B to point C, point C to point D. And I feel like if we look at the momentum that Luffy has had, maybe not at his overall build and his overall character at this exact moment, but his growth, his development, his rate of acceleration for these sorts of things, and then compare these segments to some of the greatest pirates, and we might not be knowing this information exactly as it stands, but I would say that there's a good enough reason to infer that maybe Ace, in his greater expertise and his greater strength, power level, and everything that he's seen and done, could maybe gauge Luffy as having that. And then we also have the Emperor's Haki, or the Haki of the Supreme King, that he's able to witness as well. So maybe that and Luffy's rate of development, character and strength-wise, it could position him in a way that Ace could understand that this is like an inevitable thing, perhaps.
Okay. In this same scene, Garp forces Sengoku to hold him back because he wants to kill Akainu. Now, if I recall, Garp is sitting cross-legged up on the scaffolding, smiling as Ace is being stabbed by Mr. 3 to death. Yeah, so why is he so pissed that Akainu just executed Ace when that was the plan?
I mean, where my mind goes is there's times where there's orders given or a sort of abiding by your code that cannot be broken, but at the same time, it's extremely devastating emotionally and personally. And I feel like that has to apply. Is
Garp faking it so that Sengoku is down for the count and can't capture the pirates who were escaping.
I mean, that certainly could be. I think that would.
He says,
give
"Hold
him
me
a little
back,
more
Sengoku, or I'm going to kill Akainu." It could be giving Luffy a chance to escape.
That's true, and I think that if he had both Luffy and Ace perish like on his launch like that, I mean, once
It's
again,
suicide time. He's going to go the Magellan route.
I mean, he might at least go full bore against Blackbeard. Just like I don't care anymore. And speaking of, excuse me, being in that mindset of total absolute grief that takes over your mind and body, we see in the very first chapter, 574, Luffy with Ace's corpse, and he's got an expression that I don't think we have seen him ever make before. It's just something that's like a total obliteration of his heart, his soul, his mind, just this overwhelming grief that puts him into, he looks kind of a little bit like what's his name, Grover from the Muppets, he's got a Pac-Man head going on, just total grief and
like
misery,
a Yu-Gi-Oh mind crush.
Mm-hmm.
It is tragic to see happy-go-lucky Luffy, who we've seen time and time again take spiky shields to the fist with a big smile on his face. No matter the situation, never takes anything seriously. Oda had restraint, writing Luffy almost one note happy-go-lucky for hundreds of chapters, and now the impact is just so much greater on us to see him devastated to the point where he's basically suicidal himself. Like, he's not functioning. He's allowing whatever happens to happen to him at this point just because of the emotional devastation. It's hard to see Luffy like this, and then we get a bit more of him freaking out on Amazon Lily, wondering if it was all a dream and having to come to terms with it, but he's crashing out as we go into the flashback. Have you ever been in a Luffy state of total devastation yourself, Eggy, where you just like your brain was unplugged from the rest of your body?
Yeah, one that comes to mind for me, I guess, was many, many years ago, some of which is still cataloged on YouTube to a degree. I had basically, let's say, maybe over like a month's time or so, month and a half. It turns out that there was a job that I was working for that was basically more or less a scam. I mean, it was an established company. I don't know if they're in business anymore, but I was hired through a hiring agency, and it was something like after 60 days, I believe it was, we would then receive our full pay, our full benefits, and we were hired on this temporary basis that was much less compensation. And on the 59th day of the 60 days, they basically fired the entire company and just rehired an entire new crop from this hiring agency. And then I wasn't able to get another job after that, so I lost my apartment. I was also simultaneously doxxed and had my identity stolen at the same time, and they were able to use, by logging into the panels of these websites with my stolen identity, they were able to shut off my electricity, shut off my internet and everything like that. So there was, as I'm trying to get back on my feet, then my girlfriend left me at the same time. So I was awake for about 120 hours straight or so, and I ended up going into a psychotic break where I was restrained by the police and put into... so that was probably, the most similar mind break moment of that sort that I've experienced.
In some ways, that might be worse than watching your brother get turned into a donut. I mean, that's a lot of shit to pile up in one day.
Yeah, I think it was definitely the fact that I wasn't able to sleep as in that time period. I think that led really to the psychosis more than anything. But I mean, the other stuff didn't help either. But it was a little kooky.
I'm just saying, if my brother gets punched by a Akainu, I might be like Luffy for, an hour, but time marches on.
At the end of the day, I'm kind of like a hermit, so, much love to the whole Egg fam. But
I don't think Patchy's ever going to listen to this podcast, so I could say anything I want about him. Hey, speaking of devastating things happening, we got Whitebeard wants revenge on Akainu for what he just did to his son. And he's going to get Hellhound punched in the face, and as you alluded to, lose half of it. And another reason why the manga is superior to the anime. The anime does not have this. The anime, Whitebeard does not get half of his face melted off. And anime-onlys listening at home might be shocked to hear that this happens. But Whitebeard continues fighting. He gets jumped by the entire Blackbeard pirates with literally half a face. Like, his brains should be pouring out, but they're just not. And his mustache is like just at a half now. It's very funny and fucked up. But what do you think of this attack on Whitebeard and his brawl with the Kainu? That was very brief.
Well, I think I mentioned at the end of must have been maybe 57 when Whitebeard was stabbed by Squard, that I was like, man, I really hope this is not the end for Whitebeard. I feel like he's got so much left in him. And I think the way that this all goes down, even though it does culminate in also his defeat, I think it's very iconic that suffering this horrible, brutal attack, and then, getting attacked by numerous Blackbeard pirates and everything all at the same time, and he does not ever drop. He's completely steadfast. And I did actually have the numbers here because I like the conclusion of this here. 267 sword wounds, 152 bullet wounds, 46 cannon blasts, which I have to imagine is like a full-size cannonball. And he never suffered a coward's wound, so he never had an entry wound in his back. He faced all of his opponents and all of their might. As
Zoro said against Mihawk, scars on the back are a swordsman's shame. And I'm pretty sure that thing he's holding is the sword. Kind of looks like one.
At least a pike or something to that effect.
Yeah, would you consider Whitebeard to be a swordsman with his big spear weapon? Because that's a debate people have. Because if he's a swordsman and Mihawk's the world's greatest swordsman, people say, well, then Mihawk should be stronger than Whitebeard, which we know is not the case. So is he a spearman / captain / earthquake brawler, not necessarily a swordsman?
Yeah, I think there is a distinction to be made there, that he's got more of a... because I can recall a panel, I don't remember exactly from where, but where he does like a sweeping attack with his weapon, and it's sort of like it's played out as a sweeping attack, not a slash, not a stab, not even necessarily a blunt sword strike. It's very sweeping. So I'm not super up. I guess poleaxe maybe. I'd have to maybe pull something up that really displays his weapon closely to get a good idea. But I think there is an argument to be made that he's not exactly a swordsman. I'm sure very similar in his combat abilities, but it does not seem to be his primary weapon.
Yeah, primary weapon's a fair way to put it. And I think what the people on Reddit need to understand is just because somebody is seen holding a sword and maybe they fight with it sometimes, does not mean they're automatically weaker than Mihawk. Okay?
Right.
Figure it out, people. Here's a scene I love. Blackbeard, he comes in with his big Machiavellian speech. Oh, I don't need the warlord title anymore. That was just to get me into Impel Down and blah, blah. But he's attacking Whitebeard. Whitebeard's attacking back, and he's grabbing Blackbeard's head to like earthquake him to death. And Blackbeard goes full pussy. No, Pops, I'm your son, right? You wouldn't really kill me, would you? Like, just As soon as the table's turned, he immediately becomes a crybaby. It's so funny. And then he has his whole crew jump him. It's so pathetic and badass at the same time. Like, what a genius. Have everybody else fight it out and then pop it at the end and just usurp all power and fuck over everybody. And the only one who could stop me is fucking Shanks, which, Eggy, I know he's on the cover, but were you shocked that Shanks shows up to Marineford?
I guess the arrival of Shanks gave me pause, not even just for his presence here, but the fact that he shows up and he says, all right, everybody's got to stand down. I also like how he essentially supplements what Koby was doing. Like, of all the people to, make a stand and say, there's been enough casualties. This needs to end now. For him to coming back up Koby, I thought that was really excellent.
Chapter 1 and Chapter 2 characters are meeting up.
That's right. I guess what I kind of sat and thought about a little bit was, after Shanks appears, he gives this statement, and everybody just decides that, we're going to respect what he has to say because he is one of the 4 emperors, and so we need to, recognize that. Then we get a display of the environment with some text. I guess, I don't know, what comes to mind for me is like narration text, system text, descriptive from Oda, like, and so the Paramount War has come to an end. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, I don't mind that. Obviously, this was a very destructive situation that was going on here, but has there ever really been a war that was just one battle? Like, I'm just saying, though, like, there's probably more here that we've got going on with what happened at Impel Down. I guess maybe the entirety of it could, and it's all coming to an end, I suppose, where it's at, but it just seemed a little bit like, to me, like, let's see here. So this is the Paramount War, and it was all in Marineford. And was there what?
In terms of battle manga, this is as close to a full-scale war as you're probably going to get in 2010. But, Oda will say, oh, you guys liked that? That was just practice. That was just fucking practice for what's to come. And there certainly are war arcs that are twice as long, if not longer, than Marineford, so in a way, it was just practice of having as many top tiers in one place fighting it out as possible. And we'll get more into that when we recap the arc and put it on the tier list, but
yeah, I will say also, I guess it might not make a lot of sense for there to be, even if there were further battles between peons on both sides that had occurred somewhere in the world as this was going on, it probably was not a huge priority to mention that when we have all of the most powerful on both sides all coming together for this grand battle, no pun intended. So
yeah, war, battle, skirmish, execution, whatever you want to call it. Summit War, Paramount War, there's too many names. I call it Marineford. Let's see, what was I going to go to next? More with Koby here, right before Shanks shows up. Koby, he is okay with dying for what he believes in. Like, as a kind who's going to kill him, we hear his thoughts, and he's like, this has to be the way it is, because this is what's right. And that's the exact opposite of the Koby Alvida dynamic we were introduced to in Chapter 2. So a character arc that goes to the highest level of most powerful government official. A beautiful Koby moment, and I don't know why Koby doesn't join Shanks and his crew right there. I don't know if he's still going to be allowed in the Marines after this. What do you think? Maybe Garp will have his back.
Shanks, he says, as I recall, I think it's something like, for better or worse, what you've just done will influence history or something like that. I think we could out here in this world, maybe some of our listeners could relate to this. Sometimes there's something that it might not make a lot of sense for your own well-being, even for the path you're trying to carve out for your future, but there's just something that's so overwhelmingly needing to be done that aligns with your own conscience, that aligns with your own beliefs and morals, that sometimes, no matter who says anything or what the consequences might be, sometimes you have to just stand up and say, hey, you know what? We're not gonna take it. Ooh, when it comes to everybody dying even more than they need to.
Yeah, we could use a lot of Kobys in Washington, D.C. right now to take a stand against these big magma menaces who burn everything in sight, and there's no consequences for their lies and deception.
Dropping some Aokiji fists on, orphanages and hospitals.
Yeah.
Can't condone it. That's right.
Yep. I think it also shows that life is a long journey, and you never know what parts of it might echo in the future. Because in Chapter 2 of Luffy's story, he saves Koby, and then now, 500 some odd chapters later, Kizaru is about to blast Luffy and Law in the submarine to death. But what distracts him? Homeboy Koby, screaming, doing the right thing, standing up to authority like Luffy taught him. And like Shanks says, that moment saved Luffy's life and changed the future. So, hey, go find a loser nerd out there, folks, and teach him a life lesson, and maybe 500 chapters from now in your life, he'll save you somehow.
And I want to say this too, we can draw a parallel here, because in the previous volume we have Whitebeard. He's providing this distraction, which could have allowed Ace to make his escape with everybody else, but due to Akainu's persistence, his provocation, his meddling, that is what then has Ace determine, no, I need to go finish this. And now in this instance, where the vessel that is bringing Luffy to safety could have been stopped by Koby offering a provocation towards Akainu, and this is where he's like, oh, well, here we go, die, Luffy. What'd you say, punk? Oh, that's how it is. So, in the same way that Ace was provoked, and then it cost him his life, now Akainu's provoked it, and now it cost him from doing that action that
from stopping Dragon's son.
That's right.
What do you think of that? He keeps saying Dragon's son. It comes across as a little bit personal.
Yeah, I feel like consider, because we have like Kizaru, he had his instance with the Straw Hats at Sabayoti. We have Aokiji, he had his meetings with them all the way back to Long Ring, Long Island, and Akainu has not really had this set up with them before, like a previous introduction, so really comes into his knowing of him was he pops up here, Marineford, that the knowledge that he is the son of Dragon is brought forward, and so I think it's consistent that would be his most likely way to identify Luffy, because I'm sure his history with Dragon is a lot more storied than this, just his instance of being in combat with Luffy here.
Eggy, what if I told you I think Marineford provides further evidence to the Crocodile is Luffy's mom theory?
Whoa, okay, now, have we said that before? I thought we had said that Crocodile might have been given the Ivankov hormone therapy, perhaps, but Luffy's mother?
Yeah, we talked about that, because didn't I say, wouldn't that be a great irony if Luffy's first major defeat was against his own gender-bent mom?
I mean, you probably did say that, yeah. I guess I just was more stuck on just the...
Well, as soon as Ivankov says, hey, I know your secret, and he's the gender change guy, surely I also brought up he might be Luffy's secret mom theory at the same time, right?
It might have just escaped me. I think maybe the concept that it was possible whatsoever was maybe a little bit more heavy on my mind until so sometimes like that where I get introduced to something and I need to sort of jump some mental hurdles with this theory first before I can kind of like digest that and move on to the next part of the theory. So
Well, most people don't believe it, and it's just a meme that people say. But I'm a truther, and I think there's evidence to support it. Here at Marineford, Crocodile's mission was, I'm going to kill Whitebeard. I hate Whitebeard. Fuck this guy. Then there's a big speech given. Hey, Monkey D. Luffy, he's the son of Dragon. As soon as that's publicly announced, Crocodile's behavior, every single thing he does, is to save Luffy. All of a sudden, when he finds out, wait, son of Dragon, uh-oh. Could it be? He saves Ace from execution. He's clashing with Doflamingo, but then evidently the fight goes nowhere because all of a sudden Crocodile shows up here to make a whirlwind to save Luffy from Akainu, and then Buggy comes along. But still, Crocodile's going out of his way, ignoring the other fights he wants to actually be in to protect and save Luffy right after he finds out. Could it be? Croc didn't know this whole time? Neither one knows that they're related?
Well, it is certainly a very interesting coincidence. I guess I kind of also feel like it... with everything else that's going on with Blackbeard and Whitebeard and everything, I feel like there might be some other context there that could have explained the sort of mood change or perspective change on Crocodile's part, but I think that's just as good a theory as any, really, to be honest.
Ivankov and Crocodile have a confirmed history, and Ivankov's a revolutionary, so, maybe he's met Dragon before. So at the very least, maybe he's friends with Dragon and wants to save his son, but I prefer the theory that he fucked Dragon as a woman, gave birth, and then switched it up. And that's why in Chapter 0, we only see the back of his head.
Is there any scientific backing that, like, crocodiles have some sort of, like, differentiating characteristic that between the males and the females, that maybe there's something scientific we could use to add to this theory?
Well, I feel like the big scar across his face kind of looks like the scars that people have on their titties when they get the trans surgery. Maybe that's it. Somehow, maybe he had titties on his face that needed removed. Speaking of popular One Piece memes, Eggy, are you familiar with the Whitebeard meme yelling, "The One Piece is real!" That was making the rounds in the last couple of years.
I don't believe that I am familiar with it. It definitely didn't seem like something I'd seen before, anyway.
Are you familiar with the cock edits where they take frames from the anime and give him a big cock?
I'm familiar with the cock hat, which I've seen around. I think there's a very old picture of me about 8.5 years ago standing at a convention with a guy who's like 5 feet tall wearing a cock hat. And
that might have been me.
Photobombed it.
Yeah, that's probably me. Okay. We got more amazing dialogue that you need to analyze here. Okay, Whitebeard says to Blackbeard, "You're not him," which, hey, did Oda predict like future vernacular? I feel like, calling somebody him is a very modern thing, but you're not him. The man Roger is waiting for is definitely not you, Teach. The fuck does that mean, Eggy? Roger's waiting for somebody?
Well, I guess my interpretation of that was that he had somebody in mind that was sort of outlined prior to his execution, because we know he was never captured, he was terminally ill, and he made the decision to turn himself in and then, give his words that began this new golden age of piracy. So I would have to imagine that with such a calculated departure from this plane of existence, that he would have had maybe somebody in mind that would sort of fit an archetype, fit certain characteristics of who would succeed him. So, and I can't 100% say where Gold Roger lies on like a moral compass, but I could say with pretty good certainty that Blackbeard is just out for himself and doesn't care. Like, he's ready to just do anything to anybody to get his way. Which Luffy, he's more of a decent person, I think, comparatively. He might have to step on some toes. I think eventually, I don't see a way around it to become the king of the pirates. He can't just always be perfectly on some linear path of moral justice, but certainly Blackbeard's not doing himself any favors with how he's been behaving to, basically triple cross everybody for his own benefit. So if we're going to take that into consideration, I think that would maybe explain perhaps where that series of words would indicate and where it would lie. And I'm not even saying that Luffy might be the perfect fit for whatever Gold Roger had for his vision of who he's waiting for. But, it probably is that, yeah.
The speech continues, someday one will arise who will challenge the world and shoulder the centuries of history. I'm not interested in the treasure, but when it's found, the whole world will be turned upside down. The One Piece does exist. Does this give any new hints or insights into what the One Piece treasure might be?
Well, I think to, Nico Robin, hey, obviously we know that the poneglyphs have had a connection to Gold Roger because he had inscriptions on the one in Skypiea, for instance. So we know that there. I would say that she kind of has to play a role here, probably with her ability to decipher some of this ancient knowledge if we're talking about shouldering centuries of history. But she might just be able to provide the information that's necessary in order for Luffy to be this person. And I think, especially in this chapter, he's pushed to a point that we've never seen him push to before. But then we're also, seeing that he is at least somewhat recovering. It's still very devastating to him, and it's still having this traumatic impact on him. But he's not totally out for the count in any case. So we're going to have to assume that he's going to be able to pick himself back up, put himself back together, and maybe this is going to give him even a new level of dedication to honor the memory of his brother. So he maybe gets everybody back together, and there's sort of this thread that's presented for him to pull. Maybe he's going to come at that, twice as ferociously as he already had been, and that's going to, really cement that he's got the character necessary to be able to do these things that Gold Roger had supposed that whoever was coming after him was going to be able to have to do.
What does Gold Roger want somebody to do? What's he waiting for? I mean, I guess to find the One Piece, but what does it mean to shoulder centuries of history?
Well,
and to challenge the world too.
With him having knowledge of the poneglyphs and having explored all the way to Raftel and everything like that, I just have to imagine that had he not been terminally ill, maybe he would have tried to, pursue this further. But I'm going to guess it ties into, this. We have the elders who created, 800 years ago and everything prior to. This was like the new beginning of history, with elders sitting at the council of what is to be known and what is to be kept unknown.
The Council of Trent, they called it. They said, they're not going to like this in the Bible. We're cutting this part out of history. Act like it was never there. That apostle don't count.
Kuma, we got a couple things to pencil in and out here real quick. So with that being the case...
Well, another piece real quick. Right before he gives this speech about, Roger and this lore of all the One Piece, we get a little flashback to Roger sharing some sake cups with Whitebeard, and he wants to know what the D means. To have that little bit right before this talk about shouldering history, I think is interesting. Because, of all things that they could have been talking about, that's what they plug in there. Is there a connection to the D with all of this?
Well, I guess each instance of this being mentioned seems to solidify it a little bit more, because we could have supposed it from the beginning, but I think that we kind of keep on tacking on a little bit more at each one of these moments where we're talking about something as significant as shouldering centuries of history. Well, it just takes me back mentally to we're talking about, dreams and destiny. This might be, maybe it's starting to lean a little more towards the destiny side of things, because obviously the dream still persists, but as far as we are considering what is happening in the world, each step that is moving forward as these battles and from all the blues to the grand line to the red line, and what has yet to come in the new world. It's like the dream is almost leading the destiny. Like we have a dream to reach this particular point, and we're kind of moving along all of these instances, these situations, occasions, battles, love and hate, and wealth and poverty, and just these moments in time where Luffy and the Straw Hats at large are interacting with all the events transpiring around them. It's sort of like destiny is being forged in the pursuit of the dream. It's maybe how I would phrase it.
So is the D initial for dream or for destiny? And is that not the question Whoop Slap was asking, I believe, in chapter 100?
I think so. It was hard for me to know then, but I feel like the path just is continuing to be carved in a destiny sort of manner. I feel like that's where my money would go in a bet.
In the SBS of chapter 578, somebody wants to know what the inside brain thoughts of all the characters looks like. So you get like their silhouette of their skull and then some words like Luffy, meat, meat, meat. Oda draws the silhouette of himself as the fish man, fish head guy. And what was he thinking about, Eggy? Only 2 words were on Oda's mind of what he's actually internally always thinking about.
World peace, I believe.
World peace. Now, this is a man who knows his puns, even in English. One Piece. This dude's obsessed with the world peace. Is the One Piece just a peaceful world without any of these wars and battles?
Well, it's interesting because when I think about that, I think there's definitely a case to be made. We're talking about centuries of manufactured history, and we talk about there was a video I watched maybe about 15 years ago about war and how money plays into war, and how really there's wars that are just that have been throughout history just for one side to profit from it, and well, I think if Luffy could be somebody who could be a man that could shoulder the centuries of history, meaning to me like, hey, this is what we've been told for all this time, because this is when they figured out how to kind of put a cap on us, how to start kind of building an enclosure maybe of what we're going to be knowing about and how we're going to be guided within this closure. They invented
the word anti-Semitic, and suddenly there's no combat we could possibly do to their taking over of all of society.
Hey, you know what? There could be any number. I'm sure there's been many people throughout all of history who have, found ways to clear out their opponents and then kind of put their own nice spin and their nice bow on things. If Luffy could be the man of pure heart, of pure mind, who's just driven by his love of being a free and an able-bodied man who wants to carve his legacy in time, maybe this is all part of the plan that he goes and he kind of pops the lid off and brings the knowledge. He doesn't need to hide it from anybody. He's doesn't need to shape events to his benefit and keep the reality away from everybody. And maybe that could, if honesty and truth prevailed throughout the world. It's a little bit of a pipe dream, but maybe that would be the the day that peace could take the land.
And now that we're pretty deep into this podcast, we can go into our favorite portion of the One Piece Virgin Eggheads Book Club podcast, where I suppose that Oda's writing might be secretly Nazi sympathetic. Of course, I don't believe this, and I think it's disgusting, but I think very often the text has things that you could interpret that way. And from Oda's point of view, when he's writing this, what he intended from the beginning is that Whitebeard, he's a man with a very distinctive mustache, facial hair, who's going to pull up with his swastika flag and challenge the world government to a war. And this isn't even the first time it's happened. Shiki, he pulled up. That was a great war back in the day. I guess you could call this Marineford War II. World War II in a way. And got homeboy Whitebeard pulling up with his mustache and swastika. And ultimately the world government succeeds. They manipulate the media and they lie about this man to make him look like a horrible bastard who's, with the whole squad thing and Akainu's lies, literal media manipulation with, the snails and Buggy. And how does it end? With the hope that someday somebody will learn from this and, challenge the world government again and hopefully win in World War III. Is that what Oda is suggesting here? Is this meant to inspire somebody to take down the real world government?
Well, it's interesting because if we look back, so when was this published?
Like 2010?
Yeah. So even back at that time, I feel like, there was a sort of fantasticalness to such a concept. Like, it's, we're out here, we're doing what we feel like. Everything's pretty chill. Yeah, the economy was maybe a little iffy, but that would not be, I don't think, the typical place that somebody's mind would go. Now, for where we are in the current day, where we've experienced some very strong political turbulence. We've had the pandemic, and we've had all kinds of things that have really destabilized a lot of things in this world as we know it. I think that destabilization, we have the younger generation now who are like in their 18 to 23 range are the least trusting of the government out of like any recorded generation in American history.
Why do we need to bring recency into this though? If the idea is Oda is a Japanese man whose grandpa literally was aligned with the Nazis, as fucking Luffy's grandpa is in this story, and even though he's aligned with the bad guys, he could still impart some good wisdom onto his grandson. I think Garp is a very real man who was working for a bad government back in the day. But if we all agree that Israel did 9/11 in 2001, surely Oda can be a little red-pilled by 2010, right?
Yeah, I just mean as far as that, the idea that's being presented in the story, because it's sort of a kind of tale that has been told, I would feel like, throughout, a decent portion of history, like sort of an up-and-coming hotshot upstart, an old corrupt government that isn't. I mean, what was that? The you probably heard about this before, like the tablet from like 3000 BC or whatever, and from Assyria or whatever it was at, where they're like, the youth are no longer listening to the elders. They all want to be, they all want to write plays and dance in the street instead of, respecting tradition or something like that. So I feel like there's that consistent thread throughout our recorded history to where there's some of this bubbling up. I just feel like in the modern day, this story is maybe ringing truer for a younger generation that's a little more displaced, a little more deprived compared to previous generations. I feel like they would be more likely to read this story in that way. They'd kind of put those things together in their mind just reflexively, maybe compared to prior generations.
And with, I guess some countries are trying to ban the One Piece straw hat flag because there are actual revolutionaries waving it instead of the nation's flag, and I guess they overtook their government or something.
Yeah, did you hear about that?
Very vaguely, but you know.
Yeah, in Nepal, yeah, it was the Zoomers who they overthrew the government. They were waving the straw hat flag, and then they all did their new government voting on their Discord channel. And that's when they elected that like 80-year-old woman to become the new president after they overthrew the government via Discord and waving One Piece flags. So, I mean, hey, shout out to everybody that is a One Piece fan and likes to use Discord.
Yeah, they elected the Marine lady who does the laundry to people, I guess. Like, what other old lady in One Piece could I think of? Kureha's now their president?
Yeah, I mean, the lady you mentioned, the laundry lady, I think she kind of bears a resemblance, if I'm not mistaken. I don't know.
Suru, I think her name was.
I think Kureha's maybe just a little bit more agile, at least in appearance. She kind of seems a little more together, whereas those ladies are kind of a little more old lady-esque versus just kind of regular with an old lady appearance.
Well, don't be surprised if there's a psyop in the next 3 years where suddenly every social media platform wants you to think One Piece is evil and that you shouldn't be reading it, because I'm seeing propaganda about the death of a podcaster like you wouldn't believe. So this story that's very quickly coming to a culmination of let's attack Israel and kill them all might get banned sooner than later if real world governments are being overthrown with this flag.
It's we got in at just the right time, I guess. If we started the podcast today, it might be a little dicey, but everybody knows that we love the series, and we definitely do
if
not
Netanyahu
love
had reading comprehension, he would have Oda assassinated. So thank God he can't read. He's too busy denying murdering a podcaster for the 10th time. Not suspicious at all.
That's right.
Homeboy Law pulls up. Eggy, were you happy to see Law? And Beppo, he just wants to see some female bears.
I was happy to see my good bear friend. It was definitely a void there without him being there. With that being said, yeah, it was good. It was cool. I like to keep on adding to reasons to like Law. He seemed like he kind of had his head on his shoulders. I know they called him the Surgeon of Death and everything, but I don't know. There was just something more. His energy compared to the other supernovas or whatever we were calling them. I forget exactly, but there was something appealing about him for sure. I think he was in my top 3 that I mentioned when I was ranking them. So for him to be there, for him to have the skill set necessary to help Luffy was very beneficial, because we don't know where Chopper is quite yet. We're still missing the rest of our Straw Hats. We got to make do with what we've gotten. Ivankov, is there to provide the adrenaline hormone, but we need something a little more specialized. So really, Law showing up is the best I think that we could have asked for. And then it helps weave him into where we're going forward a little more as well. And I think Luffy is going to need that right now, because we still haven't caught back up with the rest of the Straw Hats. He's on Amazon Lily. He's going to need to gather his bearings in a way that he's probably never been tasked with to this extent before, because he was still suffering and was depleted and so on from his fight with Magellan. He got his first dose of the adrenaline hormone in New Kama Land. So he's really just been worn down as much as humanly possible for quite a while now. And I think he needed somebody to be in his corner there to help him get that rest and recovery in a way that only Law probably could be able to do.
Do you have any final thoughts on Marineford, which ends at chapter 580, before we put it on the tier list?
Well, it was really magnificent. I feel like this is going to be an instance where, generally I'm somebody who I don't just like my purely action moments. I kind of need a little bit of some good lore up in there too. I feel like Yeah, this might be a bit more on the action-heavy side, but considering all of the top players that are involved here in this battle here, the Paramount War, I think that is going to tip the scales a little bit more in favorability for me compared to where it normally would, just having this sort of action with lesser weighted individuals. So
it is a celebration of all of One Piece up to that point, and he spends hundreds of chapters building up, individual characters as being so powerful, and then to have a 30-chapter all-out brawl of everybody we've ever known and feared together in one place, other than, I guess, the other Straw Hats. It's a celebration and a culmination, and it's a lot of fun. My big problem with it is that maybe it's too short, and it's an oxymoron in a way, because it is nothing but action, but also you don't get. It's like an inch deep and a mile long, you might say, because as epic as it is to see Crocodile and Doflamingo, or Crocodile and Mihawk, they're gonna fight each other, but then it's just one cool panel of them facing off, and then we never hear about it again. Crocodile just shows up chapters later like it never happened. So it's like foreplay without the sex over and over again. We see so many fights I would love to see full chapters of that are only one or two panels of the characters near each other.
Well, see, I would actually consider it more like sex without the foreplay, because it's just like you're just ramming right in, like, here we go.
But I don't get the fully choreographed fight. I just know that these two fought. I'm missing out the fun part. But otherwise, it's it's a war. it's a big epic war.
It's a highly impactful series of events.
Yeah, it's definitely a page turner, and some of these chapters are just nothing but giant double page spreads that you can very quickly page turn through.
Right.
A lot of people have Marineford as like their number one all-time favorite arc. That's a little extreme for me. I guess I'll let you put it on your list before I do.
I guess I'm probably... I think I'm going to let the impact here of the death of Ace and just everything that's being involved here with all of the components and the severity and the gravity of it. I'm going to let that probably bring it up a little bit for me here. I'm feeling maybe like bottom S right now.
So that would put it in your top 5. You have Skypiea, Annie's Lobby, Alabasta, Impel Down, and then to fill out S, Marineford.
Yeah, I would say this is an instance I've given more to previous arcs to where it might have been not as impactful, but it had more of this story and this lore that I'm really craving for, and that I really take in more deeply than just certain types of combat. And this is going to be a little bit of the inverse, I think, where, yeah, as you mentioned, it's not having entirely all of this lore and story, but there is enough there of that, and then also the just the gravity and the severity of it to where this is really a big era change. I think that's gonna give it enough for me to give it a high consideration.
And Eggy, I'm also putting it as my 5th place arc up in the S tier. My top right now is Impel Down, Annie's Lobby, Skypiea, Water 7, and I think I'm gonna put it right below Water 7 and above Thriller Bark. And then Alabasta is below that. So I got a lot in the S tier, but it's One Piece.
That's right.
So that's official, everybody. Marineford is actually the 5th best arc. At least of this era so far. Yeah, every single podcaster you listen to agrees on this, so mark that down in your books. Eggy, let's move on to the post-war arc. And this arc probably has a lot of names it goes by, like ASL Flashback maybe, but I think post-war fits better because it's not just the flashback.
This is the escape was successful. I mean, I was thinking that the admirals would be too bloodthirsty to really allow them to get away. But between Koby and Shanks, they were able to make it happen, and much appreciated.
And a submarine's a little hard to follow.
That is fair, but I do feel like, and I think maybe Blackbeard usurping Whitebeard also probably put a little bit of a damper on the Navy's bloodthirst as well, even if it wasn't necessarily.
Shanks said, "If you want to fight, I'll fucking fight you," and everybody walked away.
Yeah, Blackbeard's like, well, anyways, either way.
He said, "Now's not the time for me to fight you. Save that for chapter 1250. I'm sure. I'm sure it's right around the corner."
That's that dastardly way that has put Blackbeard in this elevated position. He's not this honorable person that needs to, be provoked into anything. He just goes, "Oh, this isn't perfectly advantageous for me. All right, yeah, I'm gonna leave."
Maybe he knows that Shanks is him, and you don't want to fuck with Shanks, even if you have 2 devil fruits. It might be time to go.
That's right.
We see a bunch of the supernovas reacting to this big era change. Rouge, one of your favorites, that big old whatever guy, he says Blackbeard is the key and the eye of the storm to come. Do we see a future alliance?
I mean, I would have to say that if you... Probably the only reason why I would say not, it would be that Blackbeard's ability to be trusted could be questionable. He's saying, "Oh, I'm the 7th warlord, don't worry about it," then just immediately cause a horrible thing that kills tons of people. But
he killed his friend Thatch. He just killed his own adopted father and pretended like, "Oh no, don't kill me, I was just joking, I was joking." Yeah, maybe I wouldn't team up with that guy. Bonnie says this is all his fault. We need to go to the New World and find him right now. And she's weeping with despair. What's this all about, Eggy?
Well, I don't think that Blackbeard would have probably taken off to the New World that fast. But I don't know. He was with... I don't know if the level 6 Impel Down ones were mentioned to be New World pirates. Can't remember exactly. Because I know the New World... the fleet admirals or whatever it was, the fleet leaders, division leaders, whatever that of the Whitebeard pirates were mentioned to be New World pirates. But it's a very good question, because who else do we know that's like somebody with great power that's like off in the shadows? I don't know if we really have anybody particularly in mind.
And who do we think she's crying about?
Well, I mean, I would imagine it's to do with Whitebeard's death. I mean, she's not like a Whitebeard pirate, but the power vacuum is immediately established as far as, what Whitebeard's death means for a lot of different people in a lot of different ways. But who could have orchestrated all this? Because even if Rouge is saying that, oh, well, Blackbeard's going to be the eye of the storm now, then who could be orchestrating above him, I wonder? Because I don't know if...
And speaking of, very good question, because in this same chapter, Doflamingo evidently has gotten orders from higher up to eliminate Homeboy Moria. And the order came from even higher than Sengoku, the fleet admiral. So who could that be?
Well, this Council of Elders, we already know that...
The 5 Elder Gorosei guys.
Because who else? Who do we have for emperors? We have Shanks. I know that we've gone over the emperors, I think, before.
Well, the emperors don't have any authority in the government.
Right.
So it's probably the Gorosei. They're disappointed in Moria, who, as far as I can tell, was the most loyal warlord in Marineford. Like, sure, he's getting hard diffed by Jinbei's salt water, but... Hancock is actively fighting Smoker and protecting Luffy. Like, why are they pissed at Moria?
Well, as I recall, I don't believe I remember any female elders up in that thing, so maybe they're still like, oh, boy, Hancock, she's a J-cupper. It is what it is.
We gotta keep her around. Okay, we get about 2.5 chapters of the Luffy second flashback. We already know his story with Shanks and getting his hat and fruit power, and now we see what's happening a little bit later. What are your thoughts on all of this, Eggy?
Well, I thought it was pretty funny that Garp is utilizing his status with this Dadan, I believe was her name, but utilizing his Navy status to say, oh, hey, there's this lady who's a criminal. I guess I could look the other way on that, but here you have to do this child care that, like, I don't want to have to, nobody else is really fitting the bill, and maybe I don't have to, have these kids be like they're tied to me and I'm dropping them off at a whatever. And obviously they're not particularly well behaved, maybe as we would understand a child to be well behaved. So we need something that's a little bit of a tough love scenario. Maybe this fits the bill.
Is that irresponsible to blackmail criminals into raising your grandson?
I feel like there's a lot worse you could blackmail criminals about, so...
I mean, for the sake of your grandson, I guess Luffy even says, oh yeah, Grandpa threw me in the jungle and I had to survive, so he's used to Garp just throwing him into a horrible scenario and making him grow and adapt.
Yeah, and I'm sure there was... Maybe not for what we see in this flashback, but maybe in his original instance of being thrown out in the wilderness, there might have been some measured sort of surveillance or something on Garp's behalf. Like he's in this area, but we could still kind of keep a track on the borders of this area or whatever.
If I recall, Ace threw him off a bridge, and then he was missing for a whole week, and they just thought he was dead.
Yeah, but that's in this particular. I'm saying before when he's saying, yeah. Grandpa had me out in the wilderness.
Oh, in the previous jungle scenario, yeah.
Yeah, so maybe, and then he was younger there too, so maybe there could be an argument there for that as well. But yeah, definitely not in this instance, because his main prerogative is, all right, I'm dropped off here, and here's young Ace. I'm trying to see what he's got going on, trying to make a connection here, which Ace is extremely adamant in denying. But yeah,
he spits on Luffy as their first impression.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Luffy winds up falling down, and Ace doesn't care. Whatever. I mean, is it Ace's responsibility? Arguably, but at this point, he's definitely doesn't care at all. So
Ace is in a situation where every adult he ever met said Gold Roger's son is trash and shouldn't live and should be killed, not knowing that they're talking about him. And even here, he doesn't he. Is it in this volume that Luffy says that he wants to be his friend, and Ace? Well,
I believe that the quote is something. At least what stuck with me was because it's pretty significant in the way it's displayed. But I think it's Ace is meeting up with Sabo, and they're talking about we're gonna get our money together, get out of here. And Ace says something like, oh, why do you keep on bothering me anyway? And Luffy's just like, I have nobody else. You're all I have. And there's nobody else for me to...
And I might be confusing this. Maybe this was a flashback that they showed during Marineford, where young Ace is asking Luffy, do you want me to be alive? And Luffy's like, oh yeah, of course. And then Ace is shocked by that, which I just thought it was an interesting question. Do you want me to be alive? Well, that was somewhere in here, I think.
Yeah, maybe that volatility that we saw, I think I don't know if I have anything to tie that together with right now, but it tied together with, the way that Ace was responding to Luffy and Whitebeard and so on, coming to save him from his execution, that parallel of being provoked by certain things, maybe having a little bit of an emotional volatility, hothead, no pun intended, in the same way that Akainu, similar ability. Maybe there's something there to be said, gets provoked into where Luffy's able to escape. But yeah, it's the instance you're speaking of where he says, that Luffy wanted him to be alive. Yeah, I think that was while he was still being kept in the gallows or whatever prior to his scheduled execution.
We find out that Ace and his little steampunk friend Sabo They're stealing treasure all around the Gray Terminal, which is just a giant mountain of burning trash. It's where it's the last stop for all discarded things. Eggy, is this our fate? Are we going to end up in the Gray Terminal of America? Are we there now? Is it called Iowa?
I feel like there's, more garbage filled and discarded parts of the country, but however, when it's all said and done, as far as I'm concerned, this is kind of why I'm trying to maybe give a good gumption towards some musical pursuits here. Like, hey, you know what? Let me at least speak my piece here. Once I, set down the instrument, set down the writing pad, then we'll, see which way I go. But I would say for me personally, I don't think I'm completely out of the woods on, ending up a garbage pirate one day.
Well, I mean, we could be like Ace and Sabo and try to save up our treasure to escape and just hope that these Blue Jam pirates don't come interfere. And homeboy Luffy, he gets captured, and after so much torture, he still refuses to snitch on Ace, even though Ace has done nothing but treat him like shit. And that's a pretty powerful character trait, I guess. Powerful constitution through all of that spiked punch torture to not give up the guy who spit on your face.
Yeah, and unfortunate for Luffy that he has to go through that, but it does establish this an instance where his loyalty needs to be tested, because he could follow him around all day, but if he's still the weakest link, the way that Ace has been raised, he doesn't really have the liberty to say, oh well, I'm gonna be empathetic here and just let you be a liability in my grand plan to take all this money and then escape, because it could get them all killed in that instance. But the way Luffy showed his loyalty, showed that he had the strength to be able to endure this horrible physical attack by quite physically, poor Chemi. He's
Ace defeats him, so he can't be that good. Like, Ace defeats him off panel. And really, this flashback gives a whole new context to all of East Blue. Like, I was so impressed when Luffy is fighting Don Krieg and he's not afraid to get stabbed by spikes, but literally when he was 7 years old, he was tortured by spikes for days. So, of course he's not going to give a fuck about Don Krieg's spiky shield. Who gives a shit? I went through this when I was 7! So, yeah, Luffy, he was, 17-year-old Luffy is way too strong for the East Blue.
Yeah, that's a pretty good point. And with he still had to use his mental strength to find those small, precise ways to fracture Don Krieg's armor. So
True.
That's something that was maybe the new element here. But it does recontextualize it, certainly.
And this volume ends with this trio of Ace, Luffy, and Sabo. They now they're friends now after all that. They beat up these pirates, and it ends with saying, "Hey, celestial dragons are coming to the island." So could it be Luffy interacted with celestial dragons when he was a child and didn't even know?
We're talking about recontextualizing. This might be. I think I'm going to need to see how this is going to go, because I don't know. I guess it's mentioned to him when they came to Sabayoti, like, oh, whatever you do, just make sure you're not messing around with these people. And it seemed to be like he didn't. Oh, well, I remember back in the day, there was nothing quite like that to confirm that for us. So maybe this interaction will not necessarily explain maybe to Luffy in this age. Maybe there's going to come a time where they're going to say, oh yeah, by the way, Luffy got clocked so hard that he forgot some stuff, because
when he drowned in the barrel in chapter 2, he got amnesia.
Perhaps. But what I will say is that certainly is, compared to, we've had such significant cliffhangers at the end of these last couple of volumes that are just like, oh my god. And then now it's like, okay, from my understanding, we're coming into the number one selling volume of this series.
Yeah, if ChatGPT is not lying, the most selling individual volume is volume 60. I mean, that sounds right. Especially after all the hype of Marineford, it was probably the peak of One Piece at that time.
And I could say, all right, who is involved in this flashback from childhood that we have never seen before? Sabo. So it would lead me to believe perhaps that it's going to be something that's Sabo-centric, maybe in volume 60, or it's going to be some sort of, really endearing story that's going to be told between the three young guys here. Because
as you may recall, I hypothesized, hey, when they said Luffy and Ace are brothers because of these, drinking these cups together, there might have been a third cup there. What's up with that? And then also Luffy cries screaming a volume or two ago, Ace, he's the only brother that I have. What? That's pretty rude to Sabo. Or is it?
When you mentioned that, I mean, that was a very good catch on this reread of the third cup for sure. Yeah, because it's like 5% of it's in the panel. So I tip my straw hat to you, my good sir, on that one.
So if Luffy's crying, Ace, he's the only brother I have, do we have good hopes for Sabo here, hanging out with the Celestial Dragons?
Sabo, he's like, Celestial, pretty cool. How about, I'm going to keep most of my name the same. How about instead of Sabo, it's Shablos. How about Charlos?
Charlos, yes.
Starts metamorphosing into Charlos immediately.
Oh, Ivankov, your hormones can make me look like a weird freak? Hook me up.
Just like Mr. Swan from Phantom of the Paradise, he's getting the Ivankov aging hormone, except instead of staying the same age forever, he's transforming into a fat, middle-aged world elite.
So is that your prediction? Sabo joins the Celestial Dragons.
Well, you know what I could say? The reason why I feel like that is a possibility is we see where these boys come from, and I think that would be something that would fall in line with the average Celestial Dragon behavior, like, oh, look at these young punks. How about eeny, meeny, miny, moa? Yes, you boy, I'll leave your brothers behind, and I will give you something great because I just want to split you apart. Ha ha ha. So there's that. Maybe he's captured. Maybe he's taken in as one of these slaves that we've seen, on Sabaody already.
That'd be a good parallel with Ace becoming Whitebeard's adopted son. If Sabo becomes the adopted son of, Celestial Dragon asshole.
Yeah. And I guess the only reason why I feel like there being a forced acquisition of Sabo by the Celestial Dragons is questionable is, as you mentioned, Luffy never really alluded to that. But once again, this could be like a back on Jaya, the Mont Blanc cricket and warrior who's a
Kalgara.
A Kalgara of where they split in this way that doesn't necessarily satisfy the full understanding of the situation for both parties. So we could see something like that again, perhaps here with the Celestial Dragons taking Sabo, to where maybe it's presented as something to Luffy which is not accurate to how it actually was.
Just what we need, more utter devastation for Luffy. As if the modern day wasn't bad enough, we need to go back to his worst moments. Oda just wants to torture this man.
What? I could also say this could be where we need to address this now, in this moment where Luffy is going through the most pain that he has gone through possibly ever. So maybe now is the time for this to be addressed, for this to be overcome, and then now we don't need to, because right now Luffy needs to be moving fully in a healing direction, so maybe we need to get all the suffering and trauma and pain out on the table here, get it addressed to continue on moving forward to a better position.
Eggy, we've gone long, so any final thoughts or predictions for the future?
I think right now I'm going to say volume 60. I'm gonna put my stamp down on Sabo being incorporated into the Celestial Dragons. I'm gonna say against his will, even though that he is this orphan and that he should go for wherever the getting is good. Let's go for it. I feel like that's just where my heart goes to at first is that he's not willingly going with it, but that might be
it could be like a Hero, Luke, and Chopper situation where, oh, you freak, get away from me, like, you know, for their own sake he has to be brutally break up with them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that might not be the most logical prediction to make, but that's just where my compass landed at first as I was thinking about it, so I'm going to stick with it.
What about Blue Jam the pirate? Could he just show up and stab Sabo through the neck?
Yeah, I just feel like going off of what Luffy said, how he did not previously mention Sabo despite their history and with the Celestial Dragons seemingly approaching. That's why I feel like there was more of a diplomatic split there versus a violence kind of split between them. So, and maybe he could be the one that maybe the Celestial Dragons are gonna take Sabo and pawn him off. He's gonna work off your debt for all the money you stole or something like that.
He'll be a slave on Tequila Wolf Bridge like Robin was. Speaking of which, will we see the crew anytime soon? Are we still volumes away from any of these other characters coming back?
Well, I feel like this is a good opportunity to give a little bit of time for the Straw Hats to kind of collect themselves. Because right now we have Luffy in this recovery. Well, is he really recovering yet? I guess physically he is, but he's working through his pain right now, so he needs this time, I think, to himself. And as we go through on the flashback here, and we go through that, maybe that's going to give that window of opportunity for the Straw Hats to coalesce around a situation. Maybe it's even the news of the Paramount War and Luffy being involved. Maybe they're going to all go to... I know I'd said Sabaody before. Maybe Fishman Island could present itself for them to go to now, seeing as it's no longer under Whitebeard's control. Maybe there's going to be some kind of opening there, but they still need the coded ship and all as well. So I feel like Sabaody and meeting up with Rayleigh is still should be the next step for the Straw Hats before they move on. And that's what I would say. My prediction would be that we're going to go through this here, and meanwhile things are going on in the background that's going to kind of bring all that together. But I would imagine they need to go back to Sabaody and meet up with Rayleigh again before they move forward.
So a return to Sabaody arc is being predicted. Eggy, the most recently released chapter of One Piece, is 1160, and I'm no math magician, as they might say, but 1160 divided by 2, I believe, is 580, which we read today.
Oh my lord, that's right.
We are officially halfway caught up to One Piece, Eggy.
All right, just 13 more months to go.
Yeah, I guess. And then what? Zatch Bell virgin? Naruto virgin? Inuyasha virgin? Maybe should we start a new segment where we scientifically decide what to read after we catch up on One Piece? Like, you know, how many volumes do we want the next one to be? Do we want a shorter one that we could crank out in 25 weeks, you know?
Well, if there's a longer one, I don't think I've ever heard of it.
Well, nothing longer, but of course, wouldn't it be nice if there was a series that, you know, it's 18 volumes total, and we could go through a whole series? And do we want it to be something we're both virgins on? Something that Eggy knows that I don't know? You know, switch it up. Something that we both know, something neither of us knows. So many options to break down the perfect choice.
I'm going to make a statement here that I'm sure every single listener will agree with. I think that both of us losing our virginities together is what everybody's looking forward to seeing.
In which case,
where my vote would go.
In which case, yeah, we can't do Naruto or Zatch Bell or Frieren or Inuyasha. So if you guys have suggestions, we have 13 months to figure it out. So start dropping comments.
That's right.
And
better not look for any new entertainment that, you know, I think you're gonna have to duck it more than me, because I've been satisfied with where I've been at. So
we could just do I'm Dying for Your Virginity, which we've done 2 volumes of over on the Treehouse channel, if you guys haven't heard that yet somehow. But I think that's it for this week. So join the crew, Monkey D. Jones YouTube channel, $3 a month. You can get in the Discord, and we'll give you a membership role on the crew and all that jazz. You get episodes like 3 or 4 weeks early at this point, because we worked so far ahead for some reason.
That's right.
And that's it for me, Eggy. Anything else from you?
Well, I just want to say thank you all very much to our crew members. I know every now and then we might be, a day or two off of, where we aim to get the early episodes up, but you're all very understanding because, we are a couple of busy gentlemen, but, you're always going to get it first in any case. And make sure you drop off some suggestions in the comments below for the ways that we could both lose our virginity together. Maybe you can lose your virginity with us at the same time. Let's get as many men together losing their virginity together as possible, folks.
And in the meantime, go read Zatch Bell. One Piece, people.